What's going to shock many people is a Gamecube SD card replacement for your DVD drive has been around since 2009. However, they have become quite rare and been out of print for a very long time. Needless to say, it has caused the prices of them to absolutely skyrocket as they're highly sought after. However, the GC Loader, which released a couple weeks ago, promises the same performance for only $80. So in this video, let's install a GC Loader, check it out, and see how it compares to other SD card solutions. So before we get started, let's get a quick word from our sponsor, PCBWay. Did you know PCBWay has a shared projects page? And did you see these awesome Christmas ornaments on there? They're so cool, I had to get one for myself. And look, it's awesome on my Christmas tree. Anyway, make sure you guys check out their shared project page, and thanks to PCBWay for sponsoring this video. The installation of the GC Loader is easy and requires basic soldering skills to complete. So let's rip this console open and get the mod installed. The most difficult part is soldering in the flex cable, which really isn't too bad. Just make sure you use some good no clean flux and set your soldering iron to 650 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. Based upon the installation instructions, they recommend 600 degrees Fahrenheit. However, I was able to use 650 without any issue. While we get this mod installed, I wanted to provide a little bit of background on it. The mod was developed in a partnership between Daniel Crack and Citrus 3000 PSI. It uses an FPGA to simulate the Gamecube DVD drive and replaces DVD media with an SD card. This is often referred to as an optical drive emulator, or ODE for short. This mod started development in 2016 and didn't come out until just a few weeks ago. I also took the liberty of ordering a custom mount from Greg over at Laser Bear. The mount itself is super easy to install and really does a nice job of complementing the mod and gives it a very professional look and feel. I also like how close the orange is to the actual spice orange of the console. Greg was also kind enough to provide a discount code so you guys can get 10% off your order. Link to his website and discount code are in the description. Overall, installation was very easy, and it ended up taking probably about 30 minutes, which really isn't so bad. With the GC Loader installed, let's check out and see how it works. Getting the GC Loader set up is really easy to do. Just get an SD card that is 1 terabyte or smaller, format it to FAT32, and copy and paste the most recent ISO build of Swiss and rename it to boot.iso. From there, load up the SD card with your favorite Gamecube ISOs and Homebrew, and boot up the system. Normally the first thing I would do is boot up F-Zero-GX, as it's a game I know well and should be able to detect any flaws. However, I wanted to focus on some of the reported features first. So the first thing I did was load up Crash Bandicoot, Wrath of the Cortex. And wow, it felt like it booted a little faster than normal. So for those of you who don't know, Wrath of the Cortex is notorious for slow loading screens. Now mind you, the GameCube version isn't as bad as the PS2 version, but it's still really slow. So let's compare this to what it would be like using the DVD drive and the original copy of the game. Now just for an added data point, I'm also going to load it up using the SD to SP2. And the interesting thing here is, of course, this game is an audio streaming game, which means not all of the background music that's in the game will work as it's supposed to, as that feature is not fully supported by the SD to SP2 or any other SD Gecko solutions. It is, however, fully supported by the GC Loader, which is fantastic. It's also perhaps worth mentioning that the SD to SP2 or any other SD Gecko solution uses the SPI bus, which maxes out at 27 MHz. This translates to give or take about 3 megabits per second. While the speed of the DVD bus is unknown, it's estimated to run at approximately 12 megabits per second. Now, time for a fun fact. The fastest bus on the GameCube is actually the Game Boy Player, which runs at 81 MHz. I played several hours of games, including F-Zero-GX, Super Monkey Ball, Mario Golf, and Crash Bandicoot Wrath of the Cortex. All games played without issue, however I was particularly impressed with Crash Bandicoot, as this game uses both audio streaming and has notoriously slow load times, and being able to play this game with audio streaming wasn't previously possible, not even with the Wii Key Fusion. Next, I wanted to throw a few different things at the GC Loader, so it's time for some homebrew. I launched the Game Boy interface and tested some Super Mario Advance 2. It looked and worked great. Next, I went to launch the SNES emulator, which is SNES 9X, and I ran into an issue. In order to load games, I needed to use an SD Gecko. This is a bit disappointing, but in the end, it's really not surprising considering the makers of this homebrew obviously couldn't contemplate the GC loader, as the last public release took place in the fall of 2019. So, still can't get rid of those SD Geckos quite yet. There are a couple things I did notice that are worth pointing out. Swiss is currently unable to write to the SD card in the ODE, which means that the patches that are created need to be written somewhere, and logically, you will still need an SD Gecko. There are also some issues with multi-disc games. These items are known by the developers of the GC loader, and they're actively working to fix them. The good news is that the GC loader can easily be updated via firmware patch, and even better, all you have to do is load it onto your SD card and execute it within Swiss. Finally, the last thing to point out is that the faster load times do cause some issues in games. While I can't say I personally experienced that myself during any of my testing, it has been made aware to me by the developers of the mod. So based on my initial impressions of the GC loader, I'm super impressed. I think that it's a great mod, and it's really kind of what I would consider almost like the Cadillac of SD card mods for the Gamecube. While several other options do exist, they all come with limitations, and while there's not 100% compatibility currently with the GC loader, the developers are striving to make sure that it has 100% compatibility. Having said all that, I think for the $80 asking price, this is totally worth it, and something you should definitely check out. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you take a look at some of the videos I'm recommending here at the end, as I think you'll definitely be interested in them. With all that being said, guys, I want to thank you very much for watching. Have a good one, and I'll catch you for the next one here soon.